wait, you lost your cat. Sorry, come inside. She's acting really strange and immediately obsessed with him, lovesick in a crazy type of way to try to get him to come back in. She even seems to break out of the trance for a split second saying, "What the F am I doing?" and then goes straight back into being lovesick crazy. She climbs into the car and says, "Let's go to your place," and then says that her dad is dying and she doesn't want to be alone. So they go back to Bear's and he puts her to bed and then goes to leave, and she asks for him to keep her company in bed. Bear gets on top of the bed fully clothed, only taking his shoes off. He's shown to be totally awkward and lacking experience with women. So Nikki takes charge and kisses him, but mid-kiss she snaps back to her former old Nikki self and says, "What the F" again. She falls back off the bed, but immediately is back to being lovesick and apologizing for what she just did. It freaks Bear out, so he sleeps on the floor, at least for tonight, and he searches on the internet about One Wish Willows. There are results about the Mandela effect, asking if the toy ever really existed in the 1980s, and posts from people saying that they do work or that they don't. And from this point forward, we watch as Nikki continues to act dangerously obsessed with Bear. And Nikki doesn't seem like Nikki at all, but Bear just keeps looking past it. He wakes up to breakfast made for him, which is nice. But there's also a memorial for his dead cat on the floor where Nikki has taken the cat out of the trash and set up a blanket and candles for it. Weird. Also, can we talk about how for Bear to be so sad about his cat, he just put the body in a bin bag and took it out to the rubbish? For me, when a pet dies, you actually bury it in the garden or do something else with it. I don't know what you do if you don't have a garden, but you don't just throw it in the rubbish, surely. It's about as much ceremony as flushing a goldfish down the toilet. Anyway, Nikki shows up at Bear's door later in a little red dress and apologizes for the night before, confessing her feelings for him. And we get a montage of them being a couple. It's all lovey-dovey at work, making out, making breakfast, watching movies, and their friends watch on, confused and jealous. It seems like everything is amazing and they're going to live happily ever after in bliss, but this is just the beginning. Bear and Nikki go on a date at a diner and his friend calls and tells him that Nikki's dad is fine, that he's not dying, that he looked into it and she was lying about it. He reveals that Nikki had previously told Sarah that she only looks at Bear like a little brother. This is important. And Bear realizes that his life is the result of the wish that he made with the One Wish Willow. So he goes back to the table and he asks her about her dad, but she starts to freak out. She says to Bear, "Why does it matter?" And he looks for a second and says, "It doesn't matter to me." And we cut straight to them in bed together with Bear on top just thrusting away. This is an uncomfortable and very questionable scene as Nikki is making all of the right sounds but staring blankly off to the side away from him. Given the nature of the wish being made and Nikki's free will being taken away from her, this is ultimately really questionable behavior.
If you're in the YouTube chat, like, comment,
it's one of many
subscribe.
actions that Bear will take during the course of this movie that will really make
stuff. I appreciate any type of support, like, comment, subscribe, and if you are on YouTube, you could catch me on Twitch for the full POV. I would very much appreciate it. Drop the follow on Twitch. My Twitch is by the same name, same profile picture as it is here on YouTube.
You look at him differently. This is a moment of his crossing a boundary and stepping over a threshold for this character. He has just found out that all of this is going on because of the wish that he made, and in the very next scene he is showing exactly what he said to her in the diner. It doesn't matter to me. He just wants to be with her, sleep with her, and just carry on. And from that choice, things go from bad to worse. He wakes up in the night and finds her standing in a dark corner of the room watching him sleep. She cries and wails like a baby, saying, "You don't love me as much as I do."
What up,
her
gang?
face
What
in
is
that
up
dark
with
corner
you?
looks distorted and
your
old, and when she
morning
finally
going?
comes back to bed, she's hiding her face behind flowers.
Hope
She
you're
slowly
having a good
reveals that she's back to normal Nikki face and then gets into bed with him, and she screams at him when he tries to get out of the bed. It continues. She cuts his hair while he sleeps. When he tries to go to work, the door is covered in tape. And when he actually goes out of the door, she just stands completely still with a creepy smile on her face, staring at the door, to the point where she just pees herself while waiting for him to come home. At work, Bear eats the packed lunch that she prepared, and inside are Polaroids. One of him says "you," and one of her says "not me." And after he eats some of his sandwich, he finds out that it's his own cat, which has been put into the sandwich.
Try a whole world of delicious Dunkin' refreshers.
What is up? How are you doing?
Parents of children who play Roblox. If your child was sexually exploited,
everybody having a good morning.
abused, or pressured to share
Things are going from bad to worse very quickly, and it's clear that Nikki is not herself, and the photo implies that she's not Nikki at all. So Bear calls the customer service number on the box for the One Wish Willow, and he gets a guy that sounds tired, bored, and pretty uninterested. Fun fact, it's the voice of the writer and the director, and Bear asks if he can alter the wish. The guy says, no, are you wanting to cancel it? And he says, no, I don't want to cancel it, I just want to alter it. He's told you can't do that. Bear asks if it's real, and then clarifies he doesn't mean the wish, he knows that's real. He wants to know if her love for him is real. The guy answers, just because you chose this for her doesn't make it less real. So Bear says, okay, I want to cancel. And then he's told they don't do that. That the only way it can be cancelled is if he dies.
Like,
it's very
comment,
telling that Bear didn't
subscribe. I
actually
would
want to cancel it at first,
appreciate
he just
any
wanted
likes,
to
comments,
alter it.
and
He wants Nikki to
subscriptions.
love him, even if it means it's against her
Much
free
love,
will.
any type
He
of
asks the
support,
customer
any
service
type of
guy
chatting.
what it is when she does this freak out, where she kind of breaks
Tap
out
in,
of the
I
trance for a
appreciate
second,
that.
and the voice on the
If you
line
could,
says,
go
"Do you
follow
wanna
me
talk
on
to her?"
Twitch. If
And
you're
we
on
hear
YouTube,
Nikki,
go follow
the
me on
real
Twitch. If you're
Nikki,
on Twitch,
screaming
go
down the phone
subscribe
line
on
over
YouTube.
and over
Same name,
again.
same profile
And Bear
picture
hangs
on
up. So where is the real
Yevens with
Nikki,
2 S's.
and who is inside her body? We'll come back to this as we go through. For now, Bear returns home and finds Nikki still standing exactly where he left her, and she looks disgusting. She's urinated, it looks like she's perhaps eaten her own feces and thrown up whilst standing there just waiting for him to come home. When they go to a party, she reads a creepy short story that she wrote about Hansel and Gretel. Except in Nikki's story, Hansel and Gretel are married, even though they're brother and sister. This is intentional because Nikki sees Bear as a little brother, but in this movie, in this story, they're being forced to be a couple. And it's wrong, it's meant to feel wrong, and this is confirmed by the writer as the intention behind that short story. It's a very creepy short story that shows how Gretel is obsessed with Hansel, and just how obsessed Nikki is with Bear, and it ends with, "It's a love that only the branch of a willow tree could conjure." I think this is a really big clue to the origins of the One Wish Willow, and it's the best that we get through the whole movie. The story of Hansel and Gretel brings to mind witches and witchcraft, and Nikki says that the love is conjured by the branch of a willow. This, of course, references the One Wish Willow, which has a stick inside that you break to make the wish. Is this the film's way of telling us where these wishes actually come from, that the product is created by a witch? And as part of this drinking game they're playing that seems to be Jenga with dares written on it, Bear gets the dare to kiss the person to his left, and Sarah is sat right next to him. Nikki pulls the most theatrical sad girl face ever and walks up behind Sarah and pulls her chair back quickly to make herself be the one on Bear's left,
Like,
so he
comment,
has to
subscribe.
kiss
I
her
appreciate
instead.
all the support,
It's
yeah.
hilarious and terrifying. And then Nikki has
you're
one of
having
her
a good
breaks
morning.
out of the trance and the real Nikki comes out. She
Stop
screams,
by.
grabs a bottle, and starts smashing herself in the head with it.
Good morning.
This, of course, freaks everyone out, and everyone is concerned except for Bear, who just kind of sits there silently. He has this vibe of someone who's more embarrassed by their partner in public than actually caring about Nikki and the damage she's doing to herself. Another example of Bear being a pretty terrible and selfish person. And when they get home, he's angry at her for how she behaved tonight. He just wants her to behave like she was, that everything was fine before, just stop being weird. He even asks her, "Do you like me at all? Is Nikki happy at all? Does Nikki like me?" And Nikki says, "Yeah, I'm your freaky Nikki." More evidence that this Nikki is not the real Nikki, because we know from earlier she doesn't like to be called that. And as they continue to argue, Bear says, "I just want you to act like Nikki." And she screams back at him, "I can be Nikki." Bear says it's not real, but Nikki says, "I love you in every reality." So Bear says, "I love you too." And Nikki suddenly walks backwards in a really creepy way whilst talking in reverse, and acts all freaky standing in the doorway. So Bear says, "Why don't you just take the bed for yourself tonight?" And Nikki implies that if he doesn't get into bed with her tonight, she is going to die. So we cut to them in bed with Nikki asleep, hugging onto Bear tightly. And he gets a text on his phone from Sarah, the girl from work, saying that she needs to talk to him. So he sneaks slowly out of the bed, and then Nikki starts to talk to him. The real Nikki. She says, "Kill me, please." She says, "She's sleeping. It's me. Please don't wake her up. Just kill me." Letting us know that wherever the real Nikki is being kept while all of this is going on, whatever it is that she's going through, she wants it to be over in any way possible. And Bear's response to that is, "What would be so bad about being with me?" She says, "I've never been with you." And Bear just walks away while the real Nikki is begging him to end her suffering. Again, what a terrible person Bear is, that he's hearing about the real Nikki being in an awful situation, and all he cares about is himself and how she feels about him. He meets up with